So today we'll be starting the next topic from your this thing. We have completed time value of money, and I have shared you the notes also. I hope everyone received. Yes, have you received?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good. So I hope that all whatever I sent is helpful to you. Does it help? How are you going to prepare? Tell me that.
With the help of PowerPoint presentations and documents only, ma'am.
Are you not going to take any textbook? You
Textbook
have
we
to
need
take.
to buy, ma'am. Still,
Yeah, yeah. You need to buy a textbook. Okay, so let us start today's class. The next thing is risk and return. So, what do you mean by risk and return? Tell me first what is the meaning of return? What do you mean by return in general? Or what do you mean by risk? Have you heard these words earlier or no? Are you hearing it for the first time? Risk and return. Yes?
We
Charanya, can you
heard
tell me? Yes, tell me. Neha?
whatever we receive on our investment, that would be a return.
Okay. Then risk?
The
I don't know.
exposure to danger is more, the much more.
Okay. I mean, return means whatever investment or whatever you are doing, the benefit that you're going to receive for the sacrifices you made is a return. And risk is the possibility that whatever you are expecting or whatever you have planned, it may not go according to your plan or expectations. There may be some shortcoming, some loss that is known as risk. Simple example, um, we can when you want to travel somewhere, we have many options to travel. We can take public transportation or book a cab or take our own vehicle and drive. Every option will have some sort of benefit and some sort of risk. So suppose if you're going through using a public transportation, you have a better what do you say benefit out of it in times of money. In terms of money, that is, you need not spend much when you're using public transportation. You will be saving on the petrol, your personal money which you will be putting in the petrol, and you should buy a vehicle. First of all, you should have an own vehicle. But if you are using a public transportation, you may you don't need to invest money in buying your own vehicle and using up money for your petrol also. So comparatively, public transportation is much lesser. That is the benefit that you are getting. But in what is the risk factor when you are using a public transportation instead of your own personal vehicle? Is there any risk? No, no risk is there.
Ma'am, we have to act according to their timings.
Right, you have to follow their schedule. Maybe you have to spend more time in going to the place where the transportation is available, and you have to wait till the transportation is available, and then the time spent will be more when you are using public transportation, but you will be saving a lot on your money. That is there. But if you are using your own commuting, you're commuting through your own vehicle, then the you will not be wasting time and you will be reaching your destination on time. You'll save a lot of time. That is the main thing. Of course, you have to make the investment in buying your own vehicle. So you have to see whether putting the money in the vehicle is worth the time that I am saving. But what is the other risk factor in your own vehicle when you drive your own vehicle? There is some risk, right? When you're driving on your own, you have the risk of accidents, right? I mean, you sometimes your driving may go wrong, and risk of accident is there, and you'll also get stressed through the driving. It will give some pressure to your body and mind, so that will be there when you're driving on your own, but time will be saved a lot. So for every option, whatever you're having, some sort of risk is there, some sort of benefit is there. Only thing is the type of risk and the type of benefit differs from each option. So for someone for whom time is not a constraint, they have lot of time, but they want to save money and they don't know how to drive. So they will use public transportation. For someone who wants to reach on time, or time is very precious and they have to do lot of traveling and they cannot waste their time in waiting for public transportation, then for, and they also know driving, then for them having their own vehicle and using their own vehicle for transportation is better. So it depends upon what are your needs and wants, what are your circumstances, accordingly which type of risk you are ready to take, what is the benefit you are ready to accept. That based on that, the options will be chosen by the persons. In the same way, when we make investments in our financial markets, every option or every form of investment will have some sort of risk and return. Compulsorily, why we are investing in any investment is done because we want some benefit. We are putting our 1 lakh, so I am expecting that this 1 lakh will give me regular income. So that is why I am sacrificing my 1 lakh. Otherwise, I could use my 1 lakh somewhere else. Why buy shares? Why put an FD, or why buy bonds? Right? So because I am getting something, some benefit, I am sacrificing my 1 lakh. So that sacrifice, whatever you're sacrificing is investment, and whatever benefit you are getting is known as return. But again, you have bought shares and you know that that shares are going to pay you dividend of 10% every year. That is what you have seen in the past history of that shares. But history is not a guarantee of future. Past is not the guarantee of future. Whatever has happened in the past is not, we cannot say that it is going to happen or repeat in the future also. There is some chance that now they may not pay the same 10% dividend, it may be less also. So whatever the variation is there in your expectations, instead of 10% they are now paying only 6%, so 4% of dividend is lost for you. That 4% is risk factor. So any expectations you are having, any forecasting you are having, and if your things or if the returns are not according to your forecast and expectations, that is known as risk. Okay, it's simply nothing but the loss in your income, loss in your asset value or investment value. So return is the actual income received plus any change in the market value of an asset. So, just a second. So, what happens is whatever you have bought a share, and that share is paying regular dividend to you. That is the income. And along with that, the price, market price of the share will be changing. It will be increasing or decreasing, right? So, you have bought by using 100 rupees, one share 100 rupees as on today, and every month it is paying 10 rupees as dividend. That is the income you are receiving, 10 rupees on 100 rupees investment. Then after 1 year, when you go to the market and see, your share is trading at 120 rupees. So whatever you bought for 100, now its value in the market has become 120 rupees. So that additional 20, whatever you're having, is known as capital appreciation. That is also a type of benefit only for you, that 20 rupees plus additional every month what you are getting 10 rupees. These both will together be considered as return for the investor. Whereas risk is the variability, change in the actual return from the expected return that is associated with a given asset. So suppose, as I told, okay, every year they are paying, every month they are paying 10 rupees as a dividend. But as I told, past is not a guarantee of the future. So they, because of this COVID situation, or because of some changes in the business operations or business conditions, they are not able to pay the same 10 rupees now. So they have reduced the amount of dividend to 8 rupees. So the 2 rupees less is the risk. Your income has reduced by 2 rupees now. And also, because of this change or decrease in the dividend, the market value also has come down. You now, it is only trading at 95 rupees. You have invested 100 rupees, but now its market value is 95 rupees. So 5 rupees is less than what you have actually bought it for. So if you are going to market and selling away that share, you will be getting only 95 rupees, not 100, not even at least what you have invested. So that 5 rupees is the risk factor, and the 2 rupees what you're losing is the risk factor. You all had an expectation, right? That okay, I will be getting 10 rupees dividend, and maybe the share price will go up to 120. So that is why I am investing in this share. Like that, you have some expectation. But what happened actually, it is different. It is less than what you expected. So that change in the income or in the return is known as risk factor. Okay, just a second. Now, coming to our stock markets, now we are concerned about the returns in our investment. So we say financial returns here. Basically, whatever you invest in shares or bonds or anywhere, even in if you put your money in bank also, do you think there is no risk factor when you are putting your money in the bank as an FD? Yes. Any risk is there if you open an FD? Yes or no? Zero risk is there. Any type of investment, some little risk will be there. You cannot completely eliminate the risk factor to zero. That is the meaning. So in our finance, we have two types of returns. One is historical return, and another is future return. Historical, also known as realized or actual or exposed return. So here, what is the thing is, whatever has happened in the past, you look into the past data, and you try to find out what is the average return of that. So Reliance shares are there. You see over the 10 years, what was the return it was giving. So historically, what was the performance? What was the return? What has already happened? That is historical, realized, actual, or exposed. That is the actual return. But when we want to make investment, it is about future. What happened in the past is okay, but will that same continue in the future also? That the investor is more interested to know. Like in I am going to buy the Reliance shares and I want to hold it for 5 years. So in these 5 years, will my returns be same or as it was in the past? Will it be more or will it be less? So you want to make an expectation about the future. You are more interested to know what the future of that Reliance shares is. So you make an expectation. That is the that also expected return. Also, you have to calculate based on the historical return. You calculate the future returns. Okay. So first we'll look into what is historical return or actual return. Suppose if it is a debt instrument. Debt instrument means the one where regular interest is paid, not like a share. A debt instrument is different from share, where companies issue bonds which are also known as bonds, these debentures or bonds, and they pay regular interest. It is simply like taking a loan from a bank. So the company is taking a loan from the public. Instead of shares, it will issue bonds and public will buy those bonds. And what is the company will be paying some amount of interest on those bonds, which will be, everything will be mentioned in the bond document. At the time of issue only they will specify all the terms and conditions. So 10% interest bonds will be there, or 8% interest bonds, depending upon why the company is issuing the bonds, for what purpose it is going to use the proceeds of those bond debentures. And maturity period, compulsory a debt instrument will have maturity: 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years. So these bonds will be ending after that period. So ending means maturing. What it means, the company will, like a loan is repaid, in the same way the company will repay the bond money to the bond holder or the public, whoever has bought, and take back its bond. Till then it will be paying interest. And these bonds, like shares, are also traded on the stock exchange. Okay, so this bond for income for the bond is interest. Like shares have dividends, bonds will have interest. So a debt investment is a loan, and the return is just the loan's interest rate. Whatever interest they will receive on the bond, that is a return. This is simply the ratio of interest paid to the loan principal. So we can calculate for a low debt instrument, return is calculated as interest paid by the loan amount. Okay. Now, if it is a stock investment involves dividends and also capital gain or loss, capital appreciation. Just now I told you, like the shares are traded in the stock exchanges and their prices go up and down. If the price is going up than what you invested, then it is a capital gain for you. The value of your investment has increased, so obviously it is a gain. If the value of your investment or share price is coming below what you have bought at, that is a loss. Together, whatever dividend you are receiving and this capital gain or loss that you are received, together it is the return for a stock. So suppose if a stock is held for 1 year, then return calculation will be K is equal to P1 minus P naught by P naught minus D1 by P naught. So here P naught is the price as on today. It is usually the price that is paid for buying the share, P naught. And P1 is the price that is there at the end of the year. End of the year means after the time, some time has elapsed. Suppose on January 1st you have bought a share at 1000 rupees. So P naught is 1000. On 31st December the price is 1200. So P1 is 1200. You may sell or you may not sell. It is not compulsory that you have to sell. It is only that you are just seeing what is the value of your investment, what is the price at which it is trading in the stock market now. So it will be the price after your investment, whatever is the price at which it is being traded in the market, is P1. And D1, sometimes they also mention D naught, that is nothing but the dividend that is paid on the stock divided by P naught. Actually, this is not minus. It's plus. Okay. First, I will show you everything. Then we will go to the. We'll practice some solutions on this. So next, as I told, here you see interest already paid, then price that is there, dividend already paid, like that. What it was there in the past, based on that, you are trying to find out what is the return which you are earning on the dividend or stock. Now, expected or future is also known as ex ante returns. That is forecasting. You want to know what will it be in the future. Any investor will look into past and future also. Okay, historically how it performed, was it a loss making or profit making investment, then in future also how it is going to perform. Okay, previously it was good, but will the same thing be in the future also? Or for example, I am interested to invest in a stock that is giving me return of 20%, and somebody else is interested in buying a stock that is giving a return of 30%. So we need to know in future which stocks are giving 20%, which stocks are giving 30%. So I will buy those stocks that are giving 20% return, and my friend will not buy what I am buying because she wants 30% return. So she will find out stocks that are giving 30% future returns and then buy only those stocks, right? So depends upon our requirement also, what investment we will make. So for that purpose, we need to know what the future of that stock is, what returns it is going to give us, what risk factor is there in those stocks. That all has to be analyzed. That is the future, whatever returns you're going to get is known as expected or future or ex ante return. And one more thing, there is no guarantee that whatever you're calculating exactly things are going to happen this way only. It is only forecasting, no? We are only expecting. And we are not God to tell that this is what I have forecasted and everything is going to happen this way only. That no human being can tell how much ever analysis you do. But all these are only to guide us, and at least to some extent we will be right. If not 100%, we may be to some extent right, right? So that is why we have to make forecasting of the future. And basically these future or ex ante returns are calculated using the probabilities. Okay, probabilities you all know what is the meaning of probability, the chance of something happening. So we will assign some probabilities according to the situations, and based on that, we will calculate what will be the expected returns from any investment. So here the expected return will be summation of all the returns as per different probabilities. Like you have expected that suppose Reliance is only there in his past 10 years, few years it was giving 10%, few years it was giving 15%, few years 30%, like that. Different returns were actually earned by Reliance stock. So you will assign probabilities. 10%, what is the probability? 30%, what is the probability? 20%, what is the probability? Like that, all the probabilities will be assigned to all the situations that you are guessing. And then you will calculate the expected return using those probabilities. So here R1 is, let us assume 10% return is R1. What is the probability? Then R2 is 20%. So what is its probability? You probability calculations will also be there. For us, we don't have probability calculations. Simply probabilities will be given, returns will be given. We only have to find out the expected return. And R bar is used when we are calculating expected return or average return. It is R bar. Okay. So, summation of all the returns, probability returns is the expected return. Now in this returns only, you have something called holding period return. Now I said Reliance 10 years data. So you're calculating every year, 1 year, first year, second year, third year, fourth year. Like that, you are calculating every year's data. Like for 10 years, you calculated 10 returns. And then you found the average. Okay. Now, suppose you want to know on the whole, you hold a stock for 10 years. So for all the 10 years together, what is the return that you have earned? That is known as holding period return. You are not calculating year wise or period wise. It can be 1 day or 2 days, 1 week or quarterly or yearly. Any returns you can calculate. So here you are not, whatever is the investment period, you're not dividing into sub periods again. The whole investment duration is considered as one period only. And for that whole period, what is the return that you have earned? That's why it is known as holding period yield. The whole time for which you held the investment, what is the return? It is known as holding period yield. So it is a return the investor will get over the tenure of an investment. It can, there is no fixed time. It can be 1 day, 1 week, 1 quarter, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 5 years, anything. But whatever is the time for which one investor is holding the investment, holding the assets, keeping the investment as it is without selling away, that is holding period. So he will get periodical returns, that is dividends and interest, and also capital appreciation, that is increase in the value of investment, increase in the price of the shares especially. So holding period return will be equal to same thing what we have done. Okay, here again. It is plus. Okay. P naught, P1 minus P naught divided by P naught. That is what I have already showed you. Plus the dividend that is paid divided by P naught. Or you can do this way also, P1 minus P naught plus D1 divided, whole divided by P naught. Both will be same. Here P naught means the price at which you have bought the share, you have made the investment, or at the beginning of the year what is the share price, and P1 is at the end of the year what is the share price. So look into this example. Suppose an investor has 1 year horizon, that is he may making an 1 year investment and 100 rupees is invested. The company gives him a dividend or interest of rupees 8, and at the end of the year the price of the security is 103. So by making 100 rupees investment for 1 year, the person received a dividend of 8 rupees. And at the end of the year, whatever 100 was the price of the share, now it is 103. It is trading at 103 rupees. So there is a capital appreciation of how much? Tell me. Capital appreciation of
3 rupees.
3 rupees. Okay. The value, increase in the value of the share. Then 8 rupees is the dividend that they are receiving. These both together, 3 rupees and 8 rupees together will be the return for this investor. So here P1 is 103 and P0 is 100. Let me write otherwise. problem with the mouse. Okay. P1 is 103 and P0 is 100. Okay. And D1 is 8 rupees. That is what we have done here. Okay. So P1 minus P0. So 103 minus 100. 103 minus 100 divided by 100. That is what we have done here. Okay. And then plus 8 rupees dividend divided by P naught. That is 100 rupees, whatever is the investment. So 3 by 100 is 3% and 8 by 100 is 8%. Together will be 11% is the return. %11% is the return you will be getting. Got it? Next is arithmetic mean versus geometric mean. We all, you all know what is the general mean. Mean in the sense average. Average of anything is mean. So when you are having a number of returns for 10 years, you can have, it is up to you, however you want to calculate. You want to study for 10 years, you want to take yearly return. So you have 10 returns for 10 years and you will find out the average of it to know what is the average return of that stock. Or you can take only 1 year's return and find 12 months monthly return. So average of 1 year you will find out if you're taking monthly return, or in 1 week daily returns, or monthly, only 1 month you want to study. So your study period is 1 month. In that 1 month, you want to study daily returns. So suppose you have 20 days of trading on in 1 month. So every day, what is the return you will calculate, and then you will find out the average of 20 days. So you are getting monthly average returns, right? So anything we use is average only. Whatever is your study period you want to study, or its average we will find out. So here in that average, arithmetic mean is one and geometric mean is another one that is used. So in arithmetic mean, it is simply adding all the values and dividing with the number of observations. So you have 12 months of data. So 12 months divided, whatever is the data you add and divide it by 12, or 20 days. Every day, what is the return? So 20 returns you will have, days, 20 days of return, add it and then divide it with 20, n number of days. This simple average we know, you have been doing. You know the meaning of average. So adding up all the observations and dividing it with the number of observations is arithmetic mean. Whereas coming to geometric mean, it is the root of, that is nth root of the products of the values of the data points. How many observations are there, that root you will do, and the observations will be multiplied with each other. The geometric mean is little bit complicated than arithmetic mean, and it is difficult to understand also than arithmetic mean. So this is how geometric mean is calculated. 1 plus R, first observation, 1 plus R2, second observation. Like that, how many observations are there? That all you will multiply. That is the product. Okay. And its root you will find out. Then minus 1, because 1 plus R1, 1 plus R2 we are doing. No? So after you find the root of that, minus 1 you will do. Now, what is the meaning of or when this geometric mean is used is when usually geometric mean is always lesser than arithmetic mean. Okay, like we have seen no in compounding, whatever interest is there, it is invested back, and on it also interest is earned. Compounding, so that compounding effect is captured by the geometric mean. Like first year you have earned 10%. Okay, now your investment is 110, value of your investment is 110. So second year it means that you are investing 110, not just 100. So again second year you earned 10 rupees. So now the value of your investment is 120. So third year you are investing 120 rupees, not what you have initially invested, that 100, not 100. You have invested 120. Like that, whatever increase in the value for yearly basis or periodic increase in the value of your investment is there, that it is assumed that that is put back. And what is the return, taking into consideration all these things, that is known as geometric mean. So geometric mean is always less than arithmetic mean. Okay, so usually suppose if it is a if you want to have a central tendency or cross sectional analysis means you want to know the average of Reliance, one industry is there, banking industry is there. So you want to find out what is the average return of banking industry. So you will select one ICICI stock, HDFC, all those shares that are there in banking. So ICICI Bank is there, HDFC, Axis Bank, Kotak, Yes Bank, SEBI, sorry, SBI, Indian Bank, Union Banks, like that. All banks you will take, and you will find out the returns of each bank and find their average. That is arithmetic mean. And for that categorization, arithmetic mean is best suited. It is known as cross sectional data. Cross sectional means in one particular sector only we are taking different types of stocks, different company stocks. That is known as cross sectional analysis. But when you come to geometric mean, it will capture the time related effect on the returns. So when you are calculating time series, and when you are doing time series analysis, that is same companies over the period, what is the return? If you want to calculate average return for ICICI Bank only, for past 10 years, what is the average return you want to calculate? So for that purpose, geometric mean is best suitable. It is known as time series analysis. Single stock only, but over a period of time for some number of years. Okay. So expected or future return, I just told you what it is. We use the weights or probabilities of each of these things, each of the categorization. So probability is nothing but the likelihood of occurring or non-occurrence of something. Both will be used, no? And what should be the total of probability always? Total of all the probabilities, how much shall it be? What will be the total of probabilities together?
1.
Yes, total of probability should be 1. So here let us assume that uh, two outcomes are expected, that either the stock price will go up or it will go down. So probability of going up is 0.8 and the stock price probability of going down is 0.2. Together it should be equal to 1. Okay. This way you will assign different situations will be guessed, and each situation a probability will be assigned, and then returns will be calculated. And total of all this will be the expected return. And expected return, they use E bracket R. It means expected return. Simply if they are using R bar, it means past or historical returns. E R is future or expected returns. So suppose if one company stocks are there, Bharat Foods, okay, three states of economy can be in boom stage, or it can be normal, or it can be in recession stage, right? So they are making a probability of occurrence for all of these states of economy. For boom, they are expecting it will have there's a probability of 0.3. Economy being normal, a probability of 0.5, and economy going into recession, there is a probability of 0.2. Okay, and in each state of economy, what will be the return of Bharat Food stocks? So if it's boom, you can expect 16% return. If it is normal, you will expect 11% return. If there is recession in the economy, you will expect 6% returns. So now you have to find out what is the expected return. For that, simply multiply the probabilities with the return. So first one, it is 0.3 multiplied with 16%, okay, plus 0.5 multiplied with 11%, plus the recession is 0.2, and the return it can give is 6%. So 0.3 multiplied with 16, how much? How much? Tell me.
0.04.
You tell me in this percentage only, not in decimal. 4.8 plus 5.5 plus 1.2. Okay. So together it will be 4.8 plus 1.2 plus 5.5. How much?
11.5.
11.5 percentage. So overall, you can make a you can you are forecasting that this will have. So this multiplication is 4.8, 0.5 multiplied with 11 is 5.5, and 0.2 multiplied with 6 is 1.2. So overall together is 11.5 expected return, ER. Got it? Any doubts still here?